There's also an expression that's supposed to be funny, but is quite accurate. Life is like a shit sandwich. The more bread you have, the less shit you have to eat. And I believe that's true. And I have eaten a lot of shit.
Tonight, a Brooklyn man is out of the psychiatric ward, and the cat who put him there is out of the wall. It seems the cat lover's attempt to rescue the pet went a little too far. Diana Rossini reports.
The cat's out of the bag, well, at least out of the walls of this Carroll Gardens building. 2 weeks ago, 49-year-old Chris Muth lost his buddy's 7-year-old cat, Rumi.
I saw around this little hole, I saw some cat hairs on the edge of the sheetrock, and I said, oh no.
So Muth grabbed his ladder, hammer, and broke holes like this one in his bathroom. But the cat ran into the neighbor's Gene Miley's ducks. Miley agreed to one hole to save the kitty, but
it went way beyond that. Now, Chris is a really good-hearted guy, but I think eccentric might be putting it mildly. Chris, without my permission, had made several massive holes.
Muth decided there was only one thing left to do: break a hole in this wall about 6 feet high into an apartment he didn't have permission to go into.
I decided to go in there anyway because I have a good lawyer and a clean record.
But police showed up. Muth wasn't arrested, but he was sent to the psych ward at Long Island College Hospital. When you're sitting in the psych ward, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking this is crazy.
And for 6 straight days,
they're looking at you like, you're crazy.
So you kept saying the cat is here.
Yeah, and they called me the cat man, and I even made cat posters in art therapy.
After all this, Rumi was eventually saved from the walls, but Muth says he lost his apartment, his girlfriend, and to some, his sanity.
I always believe something good will come from something bad.
It's Diana Rossini, News 4 New York.
When it really comes down to it, it's Chuck's fault that I even met this guy. Chuck's the guy that said, hey, I've known this contractor for 20 years who was painting my dad's houses, and he came across this very valuable mural.
Alice, it's going to be worth $30 or $40 million. It's not going to be worth $30 or $40,000. Maybe on a good day. On a good day.
He talks a lot. He's an eccentric guy. So it'd be worth shooting him. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? As a filmmaker, documentarian, you're always looking for interesting subjects.
I'm a UFO chaser. I'm one of the originals. Before any of the TV shows were on, I've been chasing UFOs. There's all kinds of things running around this planet. Extraterrestrials, not so extras. Read all about it. Extraterrestrials, intraterrestrials, interdimensionals, hyperdimensionals, and of course, yes, the time travelers. Do not leave out the all-important time travelers. They're out there too.
So I reached out to Chris and was like, yeah, let's do something together. Let's make a documentary.
Is Chris involved in your project?
Yes.
Okay. There are things I may want to say that I wouldn't normally say on camera. So I want to be careful about the whole range on this, because I have opinions about Chris.
I remember he was the most difficult birth of all. He was transverse. And there in Africa, I remember the nurse saying, quit moaning and groaning, and I've given you 2 aspirin an hour ago.
Has a bit of an old-time looking swagger about him. Dresses very uniquely. I really think he wants to be an Aussie. He's got an interesting beard today, and he's coming to my life on and off based on construction.
I'm related to Santa. I'm Christmas. Have you ever heard of me? I come around once a year, Christmas time. Everybody talks about me.
I'm trying to do my Chris Smoot laugh impression. Yeah, well, that was almost it.
You know, growing up in New York, you sort of have a kind of a sixth sense or something like that about people to avoid.
Absolutely.
So I saw this guy with a kind of crazy hat, and I could see he was standing a little bit too close to me.
If you ever figured, you know, like Mark Twain or some other people were probably unique characters, they can't be any more unique than Chris.
So I go to the next car and I sit down in the wrong direction. I never sit in the wrong direction because I hate going backwards. And who sits down next to me but this guy?
The one thing I do remember in Iran, I was always concerned. I was worried. You could have a heroin, excellent heroin, for heroin habit for $3 a day. If an American teenager got caught with drugs, the family was sent immediately. The next day, the entire family was sent home. And so it gave a teenager tremendous power.
But in dealing with Chris, you are dealing between fantasy and reality, and you never know which end of the spectrum you're in at any one time.
Who I am, as I see it, is I'm a representation of a divine force that exists all around us, and I am that representation in the flesh.
Some people might say Chris is nuts. I don't know that he'd even dispute that, but he is a unique character.
He addressed me with his famous question, "Sir, do you know who Hundertwasser is?"
And he says to me, the first thing, "And do you know Hundertwasser?" And I say, "Sure, I know of him."
And I said, "Oh, do you mean the Austrian painter who lived in Paris in the 1960s?" And he was shocked that I knew.
Because I had dealings with him over time, I couldn't separate fact from fancy. So how much was a spun tale and how much was reality, I couldn't tell.
So I have a sense of a radar, and this was one guy who was the cause of us coming together, who brought us together at this moment in time to avoid.
That's a little close. Yeah, wacky. All right, that's enough of that.
I have made my living as an ordinary person doing ordinary work, a house painter, carpenter, mason, and that I'm not, extraordinary, but this is an extraordinary circumstance. I've been in this town, Port Washington, for 30 years as a normal person and a tradesperson. I painted that house last summer. I painted that house 20 years ago.
He also worked on where I'll call it the Lighthouse Castle down by the end of Barkers Point Road, which is owned by the Arizona Ice Tea people. And he was there for, I'll say, a conservator for about 10 years from what I understand.
And that was like a $40 million house, and so I had a good reputation, and that's what got me the entrance to the estimate.
I was showing him around the synagogue and what our plans were, because he's in the construction business. And Chris saw the mural and asked what we intend to do with it.
Why don't you take a look at the painting that is at the back of the hallway here, because it's a shame it's going into the garbage in 3 weeks.
I told him about the problem we had, and I could not find a way to preserve it. That unless we were able to have someone remove it, it would have to be destroyed.
If this painting isn't taken, it's really sad to see it go into the garbage because it's a famous painter.
I saw the Hundertwasser, for what it was. It was a work of art that we had acquired. I did a lot of Providence work on it as well. And at the same time, I knew that it stood in the way of the expansion of what we call our old sanctuary.
When I first saw the painting, I couldn't believe they were doing this, and I couldn't believe they were giving it away, and that nobody had taken it before me.
what? A mural by Hundertwasser that someone found? That's crazy.
And without being derogatory, we had a white elephant.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty, crass statement. And it just, like from a dealer's perspective, it's just sheer ignorance, because obviously a piece like that is translatable into dollars very directly.
It was not a white elephant, it was a work of art, but it had no other possible buyers.
We called up the director of his museum, his archive in Vienna, and she answered, and she had a cute German accent, and I told her what was going to happen and the painting was going to be destroyed, and she got angry at me and she yelled at me and she said, "Tell them they can't do that, they can't destroy this painting. Do they have any idea what this is worth?" And I said, "I don't think so. What is it worth?" And she said, "It's worth millions."
Every time we approached anyone, including the Hundertwasser Institute, in Austria, some people in Canada who collected Hundertwassers, they said, "Fine, if you could box it and ship it to us, we'll do it."
I was jumping up and down inside and super excited, but very calm on the outside. And I very nonchalantly said, "Well, it is kind of nice. I think it would be a shame to see it go into the garbage. I'll pick it up tomorrow. I'll stop by with a deed."
Nobody in their right mind would have taken on a 3-ton mural, but Chris looked at it and said, "I can do this."
And I worked up a deed, and I stopped by the next day, and they took my deed and they reworked it by their legal committee, and they gave it to me signed by the president 3 days later, and I danced in the parking lot with that piece of paper. We were told that it was made out of solid brick with a plaster surface, that it weighs 4,000, 5,000 pounds, and that it would be impossible to get it out of the wall in one piece. So that's why we got this painting, because nobody else was willing to accept the challenge.
And I was very doubtful that it could be done, because leading experts said it could not be done.
We took it on faith that somehow we could do it.
We were looking for someone who would tell us what its value was. Tepper Galleries was the gallery that came out. And they said that the only place probably that had any client might have interest would be a museum.
Doyle said we could sell it for $800,000 to $1.2 million in as-is condition. When I went to Christie's, the guy over there said that we should restore the painting because he thought it would be worth around $2.5 million. And then I asked him what impact a well-done documentary on Hundertwasser would have, and he said if it was well distributed and well done, it could theoretically quadruple the value of the painting.
His smaller works were very expensive, with very significant values. But there was no provenance, or there was no comparability of anything of this size, because Hundertwasser had never done anything like this, other than buildings. So nobody could give us a value. There was no market value we were aware of.
It's exciting that the ignorance of one party opens doors for another party. And that's how it ideally should be.
Abandonment of this work. So, they had probably difficult pangs to respond to, and went the absolute route of demolishing the painting. So, enter John Christopher Muth.
I have caught a huge fish, and I said, "You check it out for me. You have a computer. Google on the name Hundertwasser and tell me what you find." And so he Googled on the name, and he called me up the next day, and he said, "You did catch a huge fish. I think this time you really did."
You have to understand the urgency of this. That wall had to come down. I kept stalling the contractors, looking for a way not to smash the painting.
They decided, to not give it any value. It would have been tragic if Chris hadn't found it.
Chris came along as my last hope, and I knew he would fail.
What we did is, once we found the map, which was really our saving grace, because without that map it would have been almost impossible to take this. Right above me you can see one of the holes that we found, the 13 holes, thanks to the map. Without the map we would have just been guessing and would have had to knock the entire wall down. But with the map we were able to chisel away, and we've done 12 of the 13 bolts. There's only one bolt holding this on the wall right now.
That's what eluded us all those years, is how it really put up, other than documentation which told us.
Once we remove that bolt, we're going to be able to roll it directly on dollies right out of this room and take it to a storage site where it can be restored.
If we had known, I think the better question might be, if we had known then how easy it was to take it off, we probably still own it today.
I guess it must be a little bit embarrassing for the person or the group who, you know, was in charge of making that decision.
Now we're going to run steel bars underneath and we're going to roll it out this door, and we've removed the 2 windows that were on top of this door right here, the 2 stained glass windows, and the buck that goes across this door.
I know the work he does. I know the way he behaves. He's a good guy. But a lot of it's really up here, not necessarily translatable into actual work.
You can see behind it there's doubled up 2x4s, plywood, so it's completely free.
There's no way in the world he would get that painting off the wall. And I knew it was going to be destroyed. So how do you think I felt that Monday morning when I heard the painting was taken off? It was like striking gold.
As a matter of fact, the day we were moving it, on that Sunday, the rabbi came by with a man who was a businessman, and he looked at the painting and he said, "Is that worth anything?" right to the rabbi's face. And the rabbi took him aside, and in a quiet voice he said, "You know, we've tried to sell that for some time, and we're just happy that he's taking it off our hands and we don't have to destroy it. Because how would it look for a synagogue to destroy Paradise by a famous Jewish painter?"
I became more of a believer in Chris than I had been prior to that. When the painting came off as he said it would.
So it's really due to the existence of that map and this door that we're able to take this out in one piece. I think we're doing a better job in terms of getting it out of here. We'll do less damage to the original painting, so there'll be less restoration work.
Something clicked that maybe changed my opinion about his reality, and that the fantasy he had, that he was really living in a different world, and maybe that was the right world to live in.
So anyway, that's a wrap, and next time you'll see it, it'll be in the storage unit. And after that, it'll probably be back in Vienna, where he's from, because over there he's a big star. Everybody knows him.
Oh, I forgot to put in the contract we're going to get a participation in the profits.
And on Tuesday I came in, and in a stern voice with a straight face, he said, "Chris, we made a big mistake and we want the Hundertwasser back."
There are quite some questions that are not answered yet, that don't really add up in the whole story.
So like, I would like this movie, and I would like the story to end in such a way where I don't appear crazy and I'm vindicated in the end, because I really think some of my crazy ideas are legitimate, and time will prove them. I'm different, but I was always different, and I've never been crazy.
I was born in Basutoland, which is a small country ringed by mountains inside South Africa. It's a British protectorate. It got its independence in 1966. Then I moved to Pennsylvania, where I got beat up for lying and sounding funny because the kids wouldn't believe that I was from Africa, and they came up to me and they said, "You know, it's okay to lie to your parents, and it's okay to lie to the teachers, but it's not okay to lie to us, and we know you're not from Africa." Then I was in Pittsburgh for 6 months, and then I went to Nigeria for 2 years, Egypt for 2 years, Texas for a year, to Connecticut for a year, to Iran for 2.5 years. I didn't even know what racism was until I came to this country or went to South Africa. I got a heart operation when I was 7 in Cape Town by Christian Barnard. They had socialized medicine for white people only, and I was an American, but I got the operation in South Africa because I was white. That's all.
There was a famine going on in Africa, and we were so aware of it. And then we're coming into Dallas, Texas, and it was at the time of the Super Bowl, and I'm looking at the money spent on the flowers for that parade, and Chris took a jar, and he said, "I'm going out in the neighborhood, and I'm going to collect money for people in Africa." And I said, "Chris, you can't do that."
How many people in their lifetime can say that they were given the deed to paradise?
Restoring paradise is not about a painting or just about a painting.
Is to restore what was broken in the garden, a world which was broken, a paradise that was lost.
A concept that Hundertwasser spoke of often, and it's the concept that paradise is always there.
And they have a term for it in the Kabbalah. It's called tikkun
olam, the restoration of the world.
And this is a metaphor for a very old and very old concept that's in the Upanishads, the Hindu scriptures, and it talks about the Atman Brahman, the little self and the larger self.
And the idea is that we live in a broken paradise that was broken by our disobedience as a human species.
And when I was standing in front of that painting called Paradise, I saw the first diamond and I recognized it, and I said to myself, this is the promise that God made to me 10 years ago in the dream. I'd like to do something to restore the paradise we live in and do it in a Hundertwasser style and make a conceptual art project where you're showing that not just the painting but the world, which is in disrepair, can be fixed if you give a damn and put some money and some time into it.
It sort of pushes it away from a regular standard art deal into more something like an experimental art project.
So many of the solutions to the problems of the world are known. They're just not implemented.
Because you don't belong to an organization, people are not going to give you money. And he said, yeah, well. And he was like probably about the 6th grade. And he goes door to door and he comes back with this big bottle full of money for Africa.
When I was homeless in my truck for like 9 months, none of my clients or even my employees knew about it. And to me, I was very proud of living well and living simply and living free.
And we know what to do, we know how to do it, and there are millions of intelligent, kind, thoughtful people out there who are working day and night to make the world a better place.
You know, the thing that attracted me to this whole thing was I like the idea of restoring paradise just as a concept. And I knew of Hundertwasser before.
So your job as a human being and our job and what I'm trying to do with this project is to show a beautiful, practical path to restore paradise in the world.
The United Nations has put price tags on everything. Like, for example, there are 2 billion people who don't get fresh water every day. It would cost $39 to give them fresh water. $39 per person. That's 2 billion times 39. That's some money.
This guy is going to save the world. He's going to try to save the world with paradise.
A month ago, I actually brought over a secret agent from a billionaire who offered me $1.5 million for this painting in this condition.
50% of the money from the book, from the documentary, from the painting will all go into a fund to restore the paradise we live in. And we'll document every dollar that is spent and the difference it makes in the world, and you'll see the ripple effect.
And half is going to projects in the world where people are trying to restore the world by their behavior, whether it's Doctors Without Borders, the Jacques Cousteau Society, or Greenpeace. There's so many people on so many levels who are doing good work.
That is in keeping with the philosophy of Hundertwasser and his larger vision about a paradise that is always there, but we destroy it, and show people how simple it would be to create paradise on Earth.
Chris, there's something about him that he can make things happen. And he does, he has.
In a way, very consistent with the philosophy of Hundertwasser, who always tried to make a point of not being part of the art establishment.
He wants people to worship him. You know, he's the Messiah. He's come to save us from ourselves.
The fact that
I actually am into the painting and can actually read the painting, and I can tell you what I see in the painting when most people stand in front of it and they see an old painting that's beat up in bad shape and they don't know what it means and they don't care. And so you see the center of the eye is the spiral of the universe, the nebula force. And I look at it and I see a whole story that's very meaningful and a story that matters in the world. And the fact that it's in bars, it represents the fact that God in the garden bars himself from action. He gives man free will, so we can do what we want, for good or for bad.
He speaks to God, and God, God has given him his blessing to do whatever he wants at any cost.
And our job is to make the right decision and to do what is right. And in this case, it's to restore what has been broken and fragmented in the world.
He's read too much of the Bible. His mother said to him one day, I'm so sorry I introduced you to the Bible and to Jesus, and that you took it so personally.
And this opportunity with the painting is something I don't want to waste. And I feel a responsibility to do something meaningful. And this can be done in a way that it does change the world in a meaningful fashion and done by an ordinary person.
I mean, he thinks he's the reincarnation of Hundertwasser, but a better one.
I even had a dream where Hundertwasser, right in his 80th birthday, in my dream, he came to me and said, he didn't want this painting sold.
I don't want to just like sell a painting for $1.5 million and call it a day and go live, in retirement somewhere in seclusion.
You don't leave here with a painting. You leave here with a portfolio, which is what have you done with your life? That's your portfolio in your soul. You take it on to your next reincarnation, and it belongs to you. That's all that belongs to you. What have you done?
The mission is to restore paradise, not just the painting, but in the world. And that's what he was about, and that's what I'm about.
Something clicked that maybe changed my opinion about his reality, and that the fantasy he had, that he was really living in a different world, and maybe that was the right world to live in.
Invited me to speak at the museum, but I don't have the $1,500 to go over there.
Everybody who knew him changed. His life changed, not in the sense of being eating meat and then becoming a vegetarian, not these kind of changes, but the influence of outlook onto life or part of things in life.
Well, I put these sandals on for this interview because I felt that there is something in their appearance that one can compare to Hundertwasser's drawings and paintings. There's a spiral here.
She's German. She has a German accent. She comes across as very credible. I've never seen a resume, even though we asked for it, so I don't really know what her qualifications are.
I work in the arts in various capacities. I work as a curator for contemporary art projects.
And she's beautiful. She has a cute German accent, and she adds some eye candy to this film. But in terms of her qualifications, her knowledge of Hundertwasser, his work, I think that's fairly limited.
Hundertwasser is a big name in Europe, and especially in the German-speaking countries, he being from Vienna, and he has projects in Germany and in Austria, and so there are all these postcards about Hundertwasser's architecture floating around, and so you grew up with it. You sort of he's a figure.
Good and great artists are they have an individual image. They are unique. You cannot say mix them with somebody else, or you say he reminds me of. You don't have such a thing. So he was an individual, genuine Hundertwasser.
If you are in the German-speaking countries, there's definitely a lot of him all over the place. The minute you cross the border to France, it's already significantly less. And when you come to the US, a lot of people don't know who Hundertwasser is.
Europe is just one big New Jersey when it comes to driving. People just changing lanes and just going at whatever speeds and not caring about what they're doing. Trucks everywhere. It's awful. It's like being in New Jersey. So it's not too unfamiliar. You just can't wait to get out of it.
I have a feeling that since it was done by a German, Austrian painter, people who didn't necessarily know him felt he might have been anti-Semitic.
And being in a synagogue is a very public, space, and I mean, Hundertwasser wasn't particularly Jewish.
They have been deported from their home in Vienna to a second district where they concentrated all the Jewish people, like a ghetto.
People who studied Hundertwasser may not know that while his father was Catholic, his mother was Jewish. But they had to hide their origins in order to save her life. So they masked themselves as Catholics, which in name on they were, and he had to join the Hitler Youth.
By the Nazis, all his family, Jewish family, was murdered. 67 relatives, including the aunt who was in his flat.
And that's sort of an interesting situation, you know, how this Jewish community adopted Hundertwasser's piece, and how they then also completely ignored it in the end. Yeah, and basically just, you know, tried to get rid of it in the quickest way possible.
He didn't like this. He was an individualist, free. That's why he was, till the end of his life, a forerunner in many, many fields and many, many things.
He always challenged the establishment, the art establishment. He left schools.
Hundertwasser never cared what people think.
He got into school and then he left school, for example.
I would say that he was independent. He didn't give a damn about rules, connections. He once told me that the way to the top leads from one flop to the other.
His work is maybe even decorative, and if one wants to push it.
So he never had good critics, and the critics and the director of museums, they didn't like him because he was not part of the game, he was not part of the clique.
So after spending like 2 hours driving, and there's like no signs in this town, it turns out the Hundertwasser building I was looking for is a McDonald's now. There was no signs, nothing. It doesn't say McDonald's, Hundertwasser, nothing. It's just the McDonald's. And they didn't say nothing.
Whatever green roof that was on this building is nearly brown and covered in weeds. I don't think anyone here even appreciates that this is a Hundertwasser location. I don't know if the construction workers here are wrecking this place or fixing it, but it doesn't look kosher to me.
The audience is split. He's very popular. A lot of people think they get him. They, you know, through all ages. But then there's also part in the art world that finds him maybe too much on the surface.
Hundertwasser believed that urban civilization scared nature away, and he wanted to bring it back. And then that's how he came up with the concept of tree tenants, and that these trees have their own kind of like little room and a little apartment next to regular people, which I know in New York City would never fly. No one in their right mind would lose another $2,000 a month. No landlord would ever give that up.
Hundertwasser, for instance, he couldn't understand why windows are all the same. He wanted to have windows represented for him like eyes. And they should be different. He said also there is a window apartheid. Well, why can't be a big window and a small window and a round window and the same facade? No, an architect will not do it. It would be terrible.
This place is way better than the McDonald's. They know how to do it right here, and they're definitely keeping in the Hundertwasser spirit with all the natural stuff and all the mineral springs and everything. And they gave us a hot meal for free. So, yeah, that's awesome. New York City's boring architecturally. This is like really flowing. This is like something out of Star Wars, this thing. Like there's like And it's not even close to what Hundertwasser even wanted. He wanted like whole things underground, just kind of like real natural dwellings built into the cliffside, like eyes looking onto the world. So it's really just a very interesting place. Maybe it falls short of what he wanted, but it's not even close to what we have at home.
It's actually surprising. It's surprising because his work, his whole oeuvre, I think, is something that could be understood very easily in the US. And it's an interesting phenomenon that he isn't known.
And he became also through the negative, as I told you. People attacked him, or he made an activity like this natural thing, so people write what a crazy man or so on. He gave a speech in the nude. He took off his clothes, so of course everybody photographs, and it was, at that time, it was in the 60s, a sensation. So it was in all papers, the fact that he was nude. The architect applauded him and said, "You are right." But unfortunately, reality doesn't allow us because we have to, because the building laws don't permit this individuality and variety of building. The builder himself, he wants it's money. So in Europe, he had exhibitions because he lived here. He was active here. He was in France, living in France. He wasn't living in America. You have to pay a high price for being famous, which he didn't want.
So I'd say, by and large, if you asked a typical congregant what they thought of the painting, they might have thought it was a little bizarre, especially for a house of worship.
If it had been lost completely and trashed because of that ignorance, that would have been really tragic.
I didn't see it as paradise. I saw it as paradise lost because it looked very dark, a little bit gothic. It gave a down. You had a feeling of being down. It wasn't a feeling of uplift.
I think it's a fabulous piece.
They would never guess that a painting like this in the 13 pieces could be worth $1.5 million.
So people did not like the subject matter. Some people didn't like the manner of execution. Some people didn't like the balance, the lack of harmony. It was the way Hundertwasser is. His work collides. We actually put a tarpaulin over it. A breathing tarpaulin to cover it. I really wonder if that was the case. Was that the case of trying to protect it or trying to keep it from the sight of people? So I'll never know the answer to that because it worked both ways.
There also Brault used to come and paint with him. And there have been a horse, for horses, a stable. And there was a wall, and they made a mural, and they painted together, he and René Brault.
And in that sense, I think it does have significance because it marks the beginning of Hundertwasser's development into his style.
And it remained there for about 13 or 14 years when the castle itself had to come down.
And I think René Brault was probably very important for Hundertwasser to go into the direction he ended up going into.
And he told all his friends, you should photograph your paintings because they will disappear, art dealers will sell them to people you don't know who they are and where it is, and one day, first of all, you lose any trace of your work. Secondly, if you one day would like to make a book or something, you would have them. You didn't know even where they are.
Yeah, I mean, it was transported when in the 70s. It was transported to Long Island. That's a pretty amazing story. And who was behind it, and why was it transported?
A fellow named Gene Auerbach, who was a congregant. He was able to secure the actual painting. I think Gene himself put up the money for it. It might have been as much as $50,000 at the time, which is back in 1964, 65. And Gene and his wife actually donated the entire work of art to the synagogue.
He was really the prime mover in seating this picture with people, you know, in the context of a religious congregation.
I think after the original donation back in the 60s, nobody ever really looked at it.
There are people who look at this painting and say, my kid could do better. What's the big deal?
And they made it another joint painting together, where Hundertwasser made the colors and René Braun made the drawing. And the other one is in the Kunsthaus Wien. It's called the Miraculous Fish Trough.
They offered me a chance to do a fundraiser in his own museum, introduced by the director, and it's sad to think that I'm so broke 2 years and 3 months later that I can't afford $1,500 for a ticket to go to continue, the mission. And I'd like finally to get a break on the financing so that we can move this project forward, not at a snail's pace, that it can actually move forward as it should with some speed. It's a real Hundertwasser. It's the largest piece he ever did in his life. The sister painting is in his museum, but that was done on 4 panels. And the 2 sister paintings are going to be sitting together one day in his museum. That's the game plan, to have it restored by his conservator and in his museum.
And one day the synagogue also wanted to extend, or whatever, they wanted to get rid of this, and they wanted to destroy it. But then this gentleman, I forgot his name.
Oh, Chris,
right. He came and he said, no, I will take it.
So logically, where I thought the story was going was Chris was going to sell this painting. The painting was found, the painting was going to be fixed, the painting was going to be sold. And Chris would donate half his money to feeding African children, giving them school books, parting with the money, and walking away like a hero. Someone who gave away half his fortune, who didn't have a fortune to begin with. And happy ending, for sure. And within like maybe 6 months' time, that this was all going to happen. I was just going to have to follow him around, wait for this to happen, and that was it. Really, real simple story. It's not turning out to be the story that I thought it was going to turn out to be.
You're crazy if you don't use the story of you and the cat. He said that gives you credibility as a human being. There was a real cat, you have a lawsuit, you're not crazy.
How far would you go to rescue a pet? One contractor punched holes in a wall to save his friend's cat. And what did he get in return? A visit to the psych ward and a lot of medicine and a lot worse.
Chris Muth tells us about his ordeal. He is here. Chris, it's great to see you. We've been telling your story to our viewers for the past couple of days. You were watching a friend's cat. You were working, doing some contracting work in an apartment. The cat jumped through the wall and you tried to save the cat. And people called you crazy for it.
My friend brought over his cat into an apartment I had rented and was fixing up. And we had done some repairs, and I had left a small hole in the wall for some plumbing repairs. The cat was scared, ran into it, and then fell 20 feet down in an old air vent in this converted church. It was in the tower apartment.
Then the police came, arrested you, and hauled you off to the psych ward.
Well, they technically didn't arrest me because the owner gave me permission while I was in there. After I had cut through their wall, I called them while the police were outside banging on the door, and I said, I'm in your house, I want my cat, and the police are outside. You tell them it's okay for me to be here.
Marianne, I dare not say this on Marianne gets overly excited about things. And so when she called me, and she called my daughter Mary, who was at work, and she said, the police are here and going to arrest Chris. And she said, he's gone crazy.
And I wasn't supposed to be arrested, and they took me without me knowing in the ambulance, saying they just wanted to check me out, stuck me in the psych ward for 6 days, and when you enter that door, your rights are totally different from the rights you have. I would have rather gone to jail. I would have been out in a couple hours. After I got word from the owners that they wouldn't let us make a hole in their apartment to get the cat out, I called my lawyer, well, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but she basically said she'd bail me out.
But Chris, here's the thing. You're cutting up this wall, you're trying to get the cat, and is it true that no one believed there's a cat in the wall, and when you got hauled off, you thought the cat was going to be dead?
I was willing to do anything, say anything, to keep him out of a New York City jail. And I didn't know what this was all about.
And Chris, this story is so incredible because, as you said, 6 days in a psych ward. That's like one flew over the cuckoo's nest, where you know you're sane, but everybody there in the psych ward tells you there's no cat, you're delusional.
It wasn't even his cat. And, you know, you got a place that has a bunch of holes in it. Well, cats do these things.
Well, actually, they put it in my paperwork, and they said it has a bizarre delusion about saving the cat of his friend, and called me. Yeah, and they have bipolar, manic, and with psychosis in partial remission.
The cops showed up. I wouldn't let them in because I wanted to get the cat out first. So I told them, come back in an hour, I'll let you in. I'm getting the cat out, and I'm doing what you can't do. I'm getting this cat out now.
And they gave you medicine, correct?
And they gave me medicine, which I cheeked, and I was afraid. They said if you don't take the meds, you could stay in here for 60 days. So I had to cheek the meds, and it showed up on my blood work the day I left, the hour I left, that I took none of the medication. And they could have held me for that.
One of the cops got his finger caught in the door, and that's assaulting an officer, and I didn't even realize it. They pulled their guns on me, according to the super on the other side, and he stood in front of them and told them, hey, he's just trying to save a cat, you know, let's calm down here.
And they even forced you to get a shot.
And they had the most beautiful cop in the world, Mrs. Sanchez, and you can ask anybody, she's gorgeous, on TV, gorgeous. And she asked me so nicely if I would come sit in the ambulance and have my blood pressure checked, and I went with her. I was totally disarmed by Officer Sanchez.
Well, I'm so happy Chris is there, and I'm encouraged. I said, yeah, Chris is crazy as hell. Keep him as long as possible.
And so then she asked me so nicely if I would just go to the hospital up the street and make sure that I was okay, and I went with her, and that was a huge mistake because I didn't have to go with her, and if she hadn't been so beautiful and so nice, I definitely wouldn't have gone with her.
And you need help, right? You need help. You need legal help to clear your name. What is?
And if you could reach me at catinthewall@gmail.
All right, the cat did wind up being in there, but, you know, you just call the ASPCA. You don't go through all these different, you know, units in the building, you know, beyond the permission you had.
What do you want now?
I want to clear my name, one, and I should have never been treated that way, and two, I want to make sure that the next cat that gets stuck in the wall doesn't have to wait there for 15 days. He was in there 15 days, and if the hole had been cut where I wanted it to be cut, the cat would have been out in an hour. Seroquel, Depakote, Ambient, all of those things, they make people it can make you crazy if you're not crazy.
And people in the building were asking, are our children safe now that he's out of the psych ward?
I mean, you wouldn't want somebody in your house around your kids who has delusions and has just come out of a psych hospital.
You know, it just gets to the point where he just wants the attention.
And that's when I called all the newspapers and the TV reporters, and to prove the cat was not in my head, it was in the wall. And I did that, and even then I went back to the shrinks and they wouldn't recant and they wouldn't, you know, change the testimony.
I even told them on the phone, listen, there was this mural thing. There was the cat in the wall. There was so if he's telling you about a mural, yeah, that's true. Now, all this got totally mixed up.
Just like when I said to the people in the ambulance that I had a painting worth $1 million, they twisted it around and they said I was a painter who claimed he had a painting that he made that was worth $1 million, and they put me down as suffering with delusions of grandeur. And so things very easily get twisted around. The only positives is I got a lawyer, it wasn't easy, who would file suit against the hospital, and we filed a suit, and we think we have good chances of winning. And we're just afraid the hospital may go bankrupt before we get to sue them.
He doesn't go down. He's up. He bounces back like a balloon. You know, one of those punching bags. He doesn't, and that to me was really interesting.
You know, we've sued the hospital, and the funny thing is, we may actually win the money from this hospital suit that'll pay for the restoration of the painting. And that's turning something bad into something good, and that's using something negative and just pushing it a little further.
And also, cats, stay out of the wall if you're watching.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Chris Muth, you have an incredible story, and we'll talk more about it on The Blanc. Thanks for coming in.
Don't mess with me, because I won't kill you, but I will sue you.
I guess I could say that I got into some sort of dispute or argument with him because I wanted him to sign a contract just to be like, just make everything legal and just make everything cool. And he just got really upset about it and just kind of like disappeared.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Chris, move.
Is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
He literally just disappeared. Like, he would not return my calls. He would not talk to me. And I just didn't even know what the hell happened. I mean, like, this is what I'm doing.
Chris, move.
Is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time.
Big surprise. Big surprise.
So, all right, I'm like, fine. I have all this footage. I got about like hours and hours of him talking. I have other people speaking about this mural, and it was all for nothing.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
Chris, move.
Is not available. The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
It turns out that what he wants to do is he wants to be the producer, he wants to be the director, he wants to do everything for this documentary when he doesn't know anything about making a documentary.
The story was worth more than the painting, and that I would be crazy to give it away.
And he started talking to other filmmakers. And then when that filmmaker didn't work out, that documentarian didn't work out, he talked to another documentarian.
Oh, Freddie, I met him actually on a shoot. It was kind of funny. I did him a huge favor at the time when he was doing a shoot for the rock band Twisted Sisters, and they were looking for a location I was on, and I managed to get them the rights to shoot on that location. That's how I first met him, and he owed me a favor, and that's when I called him over.
Who was Hundred Vassar? What was his story? What will be the final destiny of his greatest work? Today, we join Chris Muth. Chris is a master craftsman who has restored and maintained some of the most lavish mansions and estates in the world. We join Chris at the excavation site of Paradise, Hundred Vassar's largest painting ever. This is where the journey begins for the final destiny of a masterpiece.
He just keeps talking to other filmmakers. They try to get into a contract or an agreement with him, and he doesn't want to sign anything, so he disappears. And he finds another poor filmmaker and does it again.
You produce this yourself, and that you will make more money than you make on the sale of the painting.
But I had been recording him for 2 years, and he never mentioned you.
Same here. You are the other woman.
Yeah.
And there are 6 other women, I think.
Really?
Yes.
Here we are in the storage unit.
Okay, this is the infamous storage. What's in this storage unit? What are you doing in this storage unit?
Well, I'm keeping guard over Paradise here, Hundertwasser's Paradise, which has been lost and found in Brooklyn.
So, and how did you get here?
I actually came by way of Africa. So I'm actually a white Afro-American here in Brooklyn. And I found Paradise here in New York. They say the streets are paved with gold, and I didn't find gold, but I found a lost painting called Paradise that is close to gold.
What the fuck is this? Are you fucking serious? It's like, so you're just leaping from documentarian to documentarian. Like, we're like, he's like a documentary slut.
I'm just looking at the facts and at the way you have been behaving about it. And it looked to me like it was a sneaky attempt to basically steal my story and to portray it in a totally different light than what I was attempting to do.
What are you, an asshole? Are you really that much of a fucking asshole?
No.
We know. Well, yes.
Okay.
So, but you're going on this
whole... What I want to figure out is, are you really on my team or not, or are you trying to steal my story? And until I have a work-for-hire arrangement where it is clear and a non-compete agreement, I will always be wondering about...
But don't tell me that you can't trust me when you also have a reputation for not being trustworthy. So don't just...
I have a reputation for not being trustworthy. I don't think so.
Yeah, you do.
I appreciate your inquiry. Chris owes me several $1,000s, which he promised to repay after 30 days.
a loan I made to him in good faith. Over a year has passed without repayment. Not only will I not participate in any increase of equity to his project, but once I feel enough equity has been accrued, I will initiate a process which will bring everything to a halt until I'm satisfied. Chris has burned so many people that it's hard to just get someone down for an interview, because once they hear that I'm working on a documentary with Chris, they run. They go the other way. They're like, fuck that guy. That guy owes me money. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to him. I want nothing to do with this project. Please remove any reference to me in your film and from any media connected with Mr. Muth. Should I discover that my wishes are not honored, I will, to the best of my ability, react with swift legal action to protect my name from any association with your project or Mr. Muth.
I don't think you know me, and I don't know how long it will take you to know me, and if you're even capable of interpreting my story and my motives, when I think we come from two different ways of looking at things. Yours is very suspicious and cynical.
Well, yeah, because I grew up in New York City.
I hope I'm totally wrong about you, but you're going to have to prove it by putting it in writing so that I have a document where I feel protected, because otherwise it looks like I'm getting screwed without a condom and it could fucking kill me.
He's insane. Haven't you figured that out yet?
I'm not a failure, and I've never been a failure, never will be a failure. As a human being, I judge myself by a different standard.
There's no gold strike. It's not going to sell for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million.
It's something, you know, that's in between art and real estate. You know, it's a major, it's a major piece. It's a wall.
Even if you compare the prices that today artists get, millions.
Because
his paintings are not millions.
I've always had my reservations about, how this thing should or shouldn't be marketed.
Mr. Muth first stored the mural in a shipyard where he and a hired guard stood watch over it day and night for a month after he said a former employee with whom he had feuded threatened to harm it. During that time, Mr. Muth has been in contact with auction houses, restoration experts, Hundertwasser fans, journalists, and filmmakers, but he still hasn't managed to raise the funds needed to restore the mural.
There were some issues, and I actually just wrote an email to the journalist, and I complained and thanked him at the same time. He quotes this guy, Kobi Lador.
Who is that?
He's an art dealer who deals in Picasso prints, and so he's the guy who offered me $500,000 the first week I had the painting. He was representing a billionaire, and he barely knew anything about Hundertwasser when he talked to me.
Kobi Lador, a dealer in Pablo Picasso's works, said he was contacted by Mr. Muth in 2007 and had researched the mural. It certainly is a beautiful large piece with a fascinating history, said Mr. Lador, who considers Hundertwasser a second-tier artist, but a first-rate architect and philosopher. Mr. Lador cites as possible downsides the mural's unwieldy size and the fact that it was a collaboration.
You know, a lot of people, when they hear the story, they say, there's something funny about it because you would have been supported by now. You're in the art capital and finance capital of the world, so what's going on?
Right.
Why don't you have the money?
Right. And then I feel like that implies that it's damaged or something.
Yeah, it implies that something's not kosher, something's wrong, maybe it's not fixable, whatever. So it's like it's not good.
Now Hundertwasser was also a character, but he had integrity to a certain degree. Chris doesn't have it yet.
So how much money do you owe everybody?
I don't really like to say on camera, but I owe like $220,000 to everyone.
He owes every lawyer that has ever worked on his cases, thousands of dollars under the promise that he has this thing. He sucks people in.
And it's almost like I say, been 6 years that he's had it now. And he hasn't sold it. Now, is that brilliance? Is that genius? Or is that stupidity?
I'd have to say, listen, it has enriched our lives. At the same time, it has impoverished us.
And you want to give your girlfriend some money back?
I want to give my girlfriend money back. I have my roommate to pay back. I have my family, my mother, my brother, my sister.
I'm sure he was driven by, the motive to preserve it and to sell it for a quick turnaround.
I have debts, and I'd like to clear up all my debts and owe no one any money.
Right.
And so that nobody can slander me and impugn my reputation, because I did not intentionally and do not steal from me people, and I am not a con artist.
A consultant gets paid and tells you what you want to hear. I'm an insultant. I don't get paid, and I tell you the truth.
This is from Gio. Oh, dear Chris, is this a Dear John letter? You have found another sucker? Ah, yes. I look forward to hearing from another one of your many lawyers who you pick from Craigslist and don't pay too.
So I've spent a lot of time insulting Chris.
Oh, what a fine day it would be when your lawyers and Hundertwasser Museum and others hear about your diarrhea of the mouth.
He's a scam artist. He has scammed himself.
When shall I expect repayment of your debt to me, plus your promise of paying double my money, and also your repayment to the IRS?
Why would you want to restore paradise? It's a game.
And lie so much you can't even tell the difference between a lie and the truth, and all we know is that you are in a state of delusional euphoria, as witnessed by your constant neurotic laughing at your own jokes and Mexican idiot gringo buffoonery act 2. Pretty amazing.
The game is, I'm Chris Muth, Christian, the saint of saviors, the Muther of all mothers. I am here to save the world from itself.
To me, he's a con artist, and he's shallow and self-serving, and he doesn't give a fuck about me or about this project.
He's a good guy. I love him. And now he hates me. And I love it even better.
Be well, G.O. The art of living is to expose you as a con artist and enjoy making your life miserable.
I feel very badly about what's going on, because at the time, maybe the best thing to have done would have been to destroy it.
Has he ever mentioned that story to you? With the IRS, I believe.
It's kind of like Willie Nelson. He said, I started my business with a truck and a guitar, and after the IRS cleaned me out, I still had my truck and guitar, and I could start again.
He had to sell it to the mother. And that's why he acts like he still owns it.
I have a problem with the IRS that was based on, I had 12 employees, 15 employees who were all illegal. I couldn't deduct from the payroll, and I have an issue that's unresolved and is in the process of being resolved with the IRS.
The word flim-flam man, is that, kind of, he can't help it. It's just his delusions of grandeur that makes him appear that.
Well, my mother has a profound influence on it because she is the legal owner of this painting. And if she wants to, she can sell this painting for $1.5 million without my consent.
There's a trail of people that owes money a mile long,
I was threatened and blackmailed by another guy who threatened my life and took me to court for $500,000. My friend was doing all of the email because he had a computer, and that was part of his job, secretary and photographs and videoing of the whole thing because he had the camera as well. And so we got this offer just a couple of days later, offering us $500,000, and he has the paperwork in his name. And the guy is the kind of person who, if you give him a hard time, he's told me he's not beyond putting pain to have somebody killed. It was in his name and a $500,000 offer, and that's when he came to me and basically said the $20 an hour I'm paying him is no longer good enough.
and I was going to have to do a lot better.
All right, you know, a lot of his troubles, most of his troubles are his own making. And then he'll turn around, and even the people that helped him, he'll throw them to the curb. And that's how it works.
When we were at the library in a truck at nighttime, alone, and he said to me, I want 50% of the painting, and I want you to make me out as the full beneficiary in the event you have an accident in your will. And I'm looking at the guy, and I'm alone with him in this truck, and frankly, I'm freaking out. I'm thinking, is this guy crazy? And I even said to him, I said, are you crazy? It's disturbing for how little money relationships can actually break apart. Over what? And so he ended up actually grabbing me by my shirt. He ripped the hair off my chest, ripping the buttons off my shirt, and he pulled me up to his face. He's yanking me up and screaming in my face, saying, you're a selfish son of a bitch. And so, I was scared. I was scared for the painting, and then, I thought he was going crazy. He said, you're never going to live to spend the money, and you're going to be a lot of pain, and you're going to regret it. So,
why do you feel like you have so many enemies?
Oh, it's actually an interesting question, and it comes to perhaps you can blame it on and poor lack of judgment in terms of keeping your mouth shut. He was starting to talk about conspiracy, like get into the car, the cone of silence, he called it. He said people are listening, people are after this painting, people are after the money. And he was talking like a paranoid delusional.
There ain't nothing I've, done to him that he has to feel intimidated.
Why should I owe this person so much when that money could do so much for so many other people, even if they're strangers? I'd rather give it to a stranger than give it to him. And he sued me for $500,000 because he said I damaged his reputation for telling the truth. What I'm telling you right now, he says is defamation of character and damaged him, and he wants $500,000. And now we're in a very good position, and it looks like he's going to lose, and we've countersued him for $50,000. But he could end up doing jail time, and that's not going to make me feel more comfortable, because he's going to get out and he's going to be bitter and angry, and maybe he will fulfill, his threat.
I'd like to be able to look back 10 years from now and see this had a happy ending. It may not be a happy ending for Chris, though.
And he really did scare me, and even in my dreams, he was chasing me around with a shotgun through the woods with a night scope, and so the guy got to me psychologically.
We were friends. We'd go traveling, take a little road trip, go over here, take a tour, go see a lecture, there ain't nothing about me that he's got anything to fear.
He did a great job, and I think he deserves it, and I don't want to see him hurt by this at all.
You remember Ralph Kramden always had a great scheme to get rich quick, and was always going to be the big score, and it always screwed up.
Well, I just got an offer for $1.5 million from a Russian billionaire.
Oh, my God.
It has his condition in 13 pieces in storage.
Oh.
Can you believe that?
I cannot.
Yeah.
You're wonderful.
It's amazing.
Enjoy your coffee.
Thanks very much.
That's so far what I see in the sale process of this thing. That just when you think, that big bank is going to give it to me, they decide not to. It's that roller coaster of possibilities of Ralph Kramden.
His enthusiasm makes it sound as if this painting is worth a whole lot of money, which at this moment, this painting might be worth $35,000, which is what it was estimated to be worth when the synagogue gave it to him.
Chris has defined himself by this painting.
Also makes him more interesting. It makes him the life of the party because he's got something to talk about, something to brag about. Without the painting, he's nobody. He's nothing.
The minute this piece is gone, he'll be Chris.
That's Ralph Kramden talk. Alice, it's going to be worth $30 or $40 million. It's not going to be worth $30 or $40,000.
But he's really playing around with the idea more than wanting to have the money, I think.
This guy was talking $30-40 million is what he was talking, and he spent 10 hours.
Let me have what he's drinking.
I think he wants to, he thinks he's reinventing himself.
At family gatherings, on Thanksgiving and stuff, there's a rule laid down. Nobody mentions the mural.
Paradise Lost. But then at the same time, it's so exciting that because of it being lost and being abandoned, that someone else finds a whole new life.
It's in his hands and he's the owner. As it is now, it is not 100% painting because it is damaged. So it has to be restored.
But the painting is crumbling, and it's in a non-controlled environment. So during the winter, the moisture, the heat, it's deteriorating.
So that's just the plaster from the back of it.
And so at the very bottom, what you see, like the little pieces, that's the plaster that was holding the thing together. But that's just the plaster.
Okay.
Most of the paint chips came off a long time ago. You can look at the painting, the pictures of the painting from 1983, and you'll see most of those pieces were already missing.
It's in worse shape. And he did the work of taking the varnish off.
But what about all
that is actually all, that is damage, and that's original damage.
So the areas that were, quote, damaged, little fleck marks of paint that came off, were not in the high area. They tend to be in the low area. And I have visions in my mind of a bicycle, small little tyke and his bicycle touching the end of that. And despite the fact we put a railing up, little kids are little, and they might have gotten underneath it. So anyone looking at the painting will say, where did these chips come from? Well, it came from little children.
So you feel the painting can be restored?
Oh, absolutely. It absolutely can be. It's when it's seen by the the layman, it looks to be in a tragic state, but in fact, this was a component of its realization. It needed to be reinstalled more than once, as I noted, and it can be reinstalled again.
I don't think I remember this correctly, that he had a benefactor, I'm not going to name the benefactor, who he felt would be the person who would help restore it.
I'm reluctant to use his name just because it's so scandalous, but this guy, Mr. Saltzman, I went to his house on advice that he's a big mover and shaker in the art world, and that he could give you money to help you restore this painting.
So maybe this had been his hope, that someone he knew very well would have been able to help him fund for the restoration.
He does not think this painting will ever be valuable. It was too badly damaged, and it will never be a Hundertwasser after restoration, and so we choose not to be involved in this project. Good luck.
But it loses with every manipulation its originality.
She said, I and my husband told the synagogue 20 years ago that painting would never amount to anything, and they should have paid you to take it.
Dear Mr. Stojak, I have your recent letter. I do not wish to be interviewed. I am familiar with the situation of the mural on the wall of the synagogue. It is in extremely bad condition. I have looked at the problem previously. In my opinion, restoring what there is would be extremely costly, and then it would still be in bad condition. Sincerely, A. Saltzman.
And he came upon a little something here, and he, and just went to his head. I told him, Chris, sell this thing, sell it, buy some gold. The economy's going to go in the toilet, and it did.
Once particular collectors know about the piece, and they know that competitive collectors have not bought it yet, but must know about it, the minute that happens, The market is gone for the piece.
But when you look at it, it's a very dark, gothic theme. It doesn't stand out and say, oh boy, I'd like to own that.
Hey Conrad, this is Chris. Just checking in. I'm going to be showing the painting to some Russians that I met over the internet. But after I checked them out, they're interested in buying it.
Agent of a Russian billionaire or something like that, who wanted to pay, made him an offer on the painting for $1.5 million cash. Take it, you know. Here's the money. Here, I'll take the painting. Which he said I turned it down. He says, and I go, why? And he says, well, because if I accepted it, it would seem like I really needed the money, and I'm down to my last dime, and I'm really desperate. And I'm going, yeah, that's exactly where you're at.
I was asked by Chris's family if I could help to sell the piece. And I was asked by Chris to help to build the piece's reputation.
She just doesn't believe I can do a good job, and she doesn't believe that I have in my mind the interest of selling the painting.
Just put yourself in the shoes of the dealer who's cultivating their relationship with the collector, and that's a lot of work. And seeing the piece go right out of the window very quickly is then not very attractive.
Because she's like, you know, I think you don't really want to sell the painting, and you'll sabotage any attempt to sell the painting. And to some degree, she's right.
I'm not as invested anymore. I was very invested in the beginning, and then it became extremely cumbersome, and I realized, okay, this family needs to sort out a couple of things.
Because I really don't want to sell the painting. Like my mother, if she knew she could get $1 million for this, she would sell it.
What I felt was off limits was protecting his mother. I really wanted to protect his mother.
And she doesn't even know that I currently have $1.5 million offer, and I haven't told her. And
are you going to tell her today?
No way. Not today. Not today.
My mother tried to protect me in many ways over the course of my life, and I just felt sorry for her mother, for his mother, for having a son who was as delusional as Muther. I call him Muther.
Gio, I'm really mad at personally. I've never met Gio, but when I saw that he had taken over the website, and I didn't connect. I really didn't connect how this happened, and that it was my fault for letting go of the domain name. I'm not a computer person.
But as far as threatening his mother, the only thing I've threatened is to reveal the tapes that he's acknowledged and made. You know, it's all complicit. I haven't done anything that he hasn't been aware of. You know, that he hasn't been there.
Yeah, I emailed him about not using this, and he basically said, try and make me. I've got a friend who's a lawyer, and so it's like too bad.
There's a limit to this, and I think Chris is constantly battling with that situation, you know, of like still pushing it a couple of more months into the game and a couple of more months and trying to make it the $10 million endeavor. And honestly, I do not think that's going to work.
And I can take the $1.5 million offer, and it's a good offer, and a lot of people think I'm crazy not to take it. But it sells the story short. It sells the project short, and it keeps me from playing out the full arc of the story.
Why would we want to restore paradise? It's a game. The game is, I'm Chris Muth. I am here to save the world from itself.
So, you know, it's not just that your friend threatened your life and sued you for $500,000. It's also the IRS has been out there theoretically being able to grab this thing and sell it and still send you a bill.
I was thinking about having the interview at your place. What would you think about that?
Okay, sure.
Okay, because the weather's getting kind of foul, and it's just
Yeah.
I can't really shoot these things outside anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Because he likes you still.
Good. Well, when you get a chance to sit with him, you can go over ways to, like, spin happy endings. Tell him you've been thinking about various endings. What is a good ending for this movie? What would be one that would satisfy both the audience and you?
You were directing the behind-the-scenes, more interesting story about our whole struggle, about how I got this, about me, the whole project with all the different subplots, and there'll be the lawsuit, the death threat. It's a human drama, and it's a story that features me as the main character in the story, and I trust him to do a good job. And I've seen some of his work, and I said I think I like the way he's approaching it, and I like his style.
Gio tells me don't trust him, don't talk to him, and you told me you're my friend and that you can trust me, and so he
Chuck
says,
trusts me.
Absolutely. Give him a big hug. Give him a big hug. There you go. There you go.
Now I guess I am in his good graces again because he's burnt so many people and burnt so many filmmakers.
I trust Chuck, and he recommended you very highly, and that's why I said I want to do business with you.
He will make a star out of you yet.
Yeah. Well,
before you're dead.
Before you're dead. That'll happen. He trusts my work.
There you go. Yes.
That's the point. Trust my work. Don't trust me. Trust the work.
That I guess I got back into the picture. Like I fell back into favor with him. I guess my penance is finished, so now I get to be back on the project.
So what's going on with the IRS?
Oh, the IRS, they showed up at my door the other day. The guy knocked on my door. He's like, here I am in Dolphin Green. And the guy knocks on my door, and I open the door, and he says, I'm looking for John Muth. The offer of compromise basically says, look, I'm broke, I don't have any money. The guy said he's looking for $1 million. Okay, so he says I owe him $1 million. The IRS, and it's really funny if you know me, and it's like, where am I going to get $1 million? You must be kidding, and so it's ridiculous. I didn't tell him about the painting, but I basically, the reason I'm not going to make an offer of compromise is because I don't want any question about whether or not I was cheating them out of some money that they were owed, and I'm getting some money, and I have an undeclared asset. So I'm basically telling them flat out, I don't owe you. There's an offer that my family received, and my brother is negotiating because people in my family don't trust me. They think I'll sabotage the deal and that I don't want to sell, which is true. And
how are you going to sabotage it? What are you going to do?
Simply by telling, for example, the guy who's making the deal specified he does not want the deal to be made public before he is going to present it, and so it's part of the conditions. And the guy doesn't have a sense of humor who wants to buy this. He's a very serious character, and they don't have a lot of money, so they've only offered $700,000, which is less than I could have gotten 6 years ago. If we succeeded, as I envision it, would be worth as an entertainment property $40 to $100 million.
In order for this documentary to make $40 million, it has to land in the top 5 documentaries of all time. The highest grossing top 5 of all time.
Because the reality is I don't need any specific filmmaker or producer. I need the money.
This documentary is not $40 million. It would have to make more money than Obama's America 2016 and right behind Justin Bieber's Never Say Never.
It's beyond art, it's beyond money, it's beyond me. It's about us as a species on the planet and our future.
I don't even give a shit about Hundertwasser. I don't give a shit about Hundertwasser because, I mean, yeah, it's an alright painting, but this is a mental health story. This is a story about mental illness.
And that's what the story is about. It's about us, and it's about our species, and it's very serious business.
Chris insists that I bill him for this documentary. He wants to pay me. Chris wants me to invoice him. I've given him invoices.
Work out the details because as soon as the money comes through, I want to hire you, to be the cameraman and help me work on the whole project.
Who do you pay back first? What do you do?
Well, I pay you. You haven't gotten any money.
Well,
so
I don't know if I'm number one on the list.
Well, no, you're not number one. Number one is my mother.
So I keep making up invoices and giving it to him. I mean, it's just completely crazy. I'm never going to see a dime from him from this movie.
No, the photo.
The photo, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You still have it?
I still have it, and it's in the storage unit, and I'm actually going to try to sell it again because we're absolutely desperate for money.
I'm here with a photograph called Faith by Drew Tao. You can see it on drewtao.com. It sells for between $15,000 and $20,000. It's a beautiful image of the one and the many. It looks like one monk, but it's actually or a group, but it's actually one monk in different positions. We're selling this painting to raise money to restore Paradise, Hundertwasser's painting.
You were supposed to give it to me, don't you remember?
Yes, I know. And given a choice, like I told my mom, I said, I'll give it to Conrad, whatever, because I owe Conrad $10,000, and he can at least keep it. Maybe he can even sell it. And she said, well, what about us?
I got it from the dumpster with witnesses present. That I got this from the dumpster where it almost hit me in the head as it fell out of the dumpster. So, I'm not a thief, but when I told the owner that this was thrown out without any damage, they're supposed to scarify it, and by law, because this is owned by the artist, the copyright, and he didn't make any money and it was thrown into the garbage. So, I told him, and he accused me of stealing the painting. And I told him he's a very wealthy man, and I said, you be very careful about ever saying that publicly because I will sue you for slander and defamation of character. And I'm very serious about that. And so if you don't have evidence and I have evidence to the contrary, you should be very careful about what you say.
Why does Conrad come in front of us? He says, why don't you sell it for money and then give us some of the money?
Hi, Conrad. We're just about to get on to get off the expressway right here in Jackson Heights.
Okay.
And so I guess we'll probably be there in about 15 minutes.
A frame between two rooms. That's how it's like. You see it like if you stick it up like this. You know, that's what it was made for. And that's why it's on museum grade Lexan. It looks really neat with the light behind it.
Okay, I'll
so when you set it up, try to set it that way. Okay, great. All right, I wish I could stay.
No, it's okay.
I could come up, so I'll be back in a week.
Okay.
And hopefully this is going to work out.
Hopefully enjoy the footage too. That's
great. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Say hi to your friend.
Thanks.
So I got Chris's Faith piece that was made by Drew Tall, who has no idea that he's even involved in this documentary, I guess. In lieu of payment, because Chris hasn't paid me at all, nothing, anything, zip, zero, nada, goose egg, for all the time I've been putting into this project, so this is what I get in lieu of payment. I might get myself into trouble now. I just don't know what to do with this thing. It might be worth 15 grand, but I don't know. I can't verify its worth. I'm actually doing you a favor by trying to figure out if this thing is worthless. And from what I'm getting is that because it's not authenticated by the gallery or the artist, that it's not as much as you might think it is. You know, and that's the truth.
Well, if the original was 60,000, and I've been to his shows and I've seen...
But it's not signed. It's not signed. It's not signed, Chris. It's not signed.
Well, I think it's actually going to end well, and I think it's going to be an exciting journey, and it's just beginning.
When you started this project, you had more hair and it wasn't as gray.
You're right.
You want to solve this episode 1 of Star Wars before you drop dead. You used Conrad's film that you worked together for, and I love the ending where it's like you as the hero, the Don Quixote, you're not satisfied, that inner fire, and it erupts in a, but, you know, it's like, and then it ends. It's just like, bang, it goes black. It's like, you know, like, but I'm gonna do this. You know, it's like, and you just want to know, what the fuck is this guy gonna do next?
You know, there's a great beginning, there's a crazy-ass middle that is just it's the everlasting middle, and there's no end.
Might as well just fade to black right now. This picture will never end. The painting's never gonna get out of a warehouse. I don't know, Chris. Well, I wish you luck. There's a happy ending in here somewhere.
I don't want luck. I want the money.
Okay, this is the end of the documentary. I'm saying it's over. Okay? This means all right, that's it. Close the door. And that's the end of this is the end of the documentary. I'm closing the doors, and that's it. Just like in The Magic Garden on that show, which I used to like as a kid, and I used to cry every time they did that. Anyway, the documentary is finished.
It's like Butch and Sundance with that freeze frame where they're coming out and the guns are and they're frozen. It's like, you know, there's the big scene is unsaid, but that's like the next chapter, and it's like it makes you want more.